Have you ever felt invisible even while sitting in a room full of people? Not physically invisible, but emotionally unseen. You are there, you are listening, you are participating, yet somehow your presence fades into the background. People talk over you. They interrupt before you finish your sentence. They respond briefly, then move on. And later, when you're alone, you replay the moment in your head and wonder what you did wrong. You ask yourself if you talked too much, or maybe not enough. If your words were boring, if your voice was too soft, if you simply don't matter as much as others. That feeling doesn't appear suddenly. It builds slowly over years, sometimes over a lifetime. It often starts very early in childhood, long before you had the words to explain it. When a child speaks and no one truly listens, something breaks quietly inside. Maybe the parents were busy, emotionally unavailable, or overwhelmed. Maybe the child was interrupted often, told to be quiet, or only listened to when they behaved well or said the right things. Over time, the child learns that their voice is conditional, that being heard is not a given, but something that must be earned. So the child adapts. They start explaining themselves more, adding details, justifying their feelings, repeating the same point in different ways, hoping that eventually someone will understand. They learn to speak carefully, cautiously, as if walking on emotional glass. And when that child becomes an adult, the pattern doesn't disappear. It simply changes form. As an adult, when they speak, there is often anxiety underneath the words. A silent fear that says, I need to make this clear. Or they won't listen, so they talk longer than necessary. Not because they love talking, but because they are afraid of being misunderstood. They give context, background, explanations, examples, even apologies that no one asked for. And while their intention is to connect, the result is often the opposite. People lose focus, not because the speaker is uninteresting, but because the message becomes diluted. This is one of the most painful ironies of feeling invisible. The more you fear not being heard, the more you speak from anxiety. And the more you speak from anxiety, the harder it becomes for others to stay present. Then comes the interruption, or the distracted look, or the phone glance. And inside you, something sinks. A familiar ache, a confirmation of an old belief. See, I'm invisible. But invisibility is not about worth. It's about energy, presence, and learned emotional patterns. Many people who feel invisible also carry a deep sense of emotional hyper-awareness. They notice everything. Tone changes, facial expressions, shifts in attention. They can feel when someone is drifting away mid-conversation. This sensitivity didn't develop randomly. It developed as a survival skill. When you grow up needing to read the room to feel safe, you become very good at it. But that same sensitivity, later in life, can turn against you. You become so focused on how others are responding that you disconnect from yourself while speaking. You are talking, but you are also watching, monitoring, adjusting, worrying, and people don't connect to words alone. They connect to presence. When someone is fully inside what they're saying, grounded and calm, others feel it. When someone is split between speaking and self-monitoring, the energy becomes unstable, and humans, even unconsciously, pull away from instability. There is also the issue of emotional permission. Many invisible people grew up feeling that their needs were too much, that their emotions were inconvenient. So even as adults, they carry a subtle guilt when taking space. When they speak, their body language often apologizes before their mouth does. Their shoulders may be slightly closed. Their voice may lower at the end of sentences. Their words may sound like questions, even when they are statements. All of this sends a quiet message. I don't expect to be heard. And people, without realizing it, respond accordingly. This doesn't mean people are cruel. Most of the time, they are simply responding to the emotional cues they receive. Humans mirror energy. If someone speaks as if they are unsure, they deserve attention. Others unconsciously agree. Another painful layer is comparison. Invisible people often notice that others can say very little and still command attention. Someone else tells a short story, and everyone listens. Someone else interrupts, and no one minds. And you wonder why the rules seem different for you? This leads to self-blame. You start believing that you are socially flawed, that you lack charisma, that you are somehow less interesting. But what's really happening is this. Those people are not asking for permission to exist in the conversation. They assume their right to be heard. And that assumption changes everything. There is also a connection between invisibility and emotional exhaustion. Many people who feel invisible are actually deeply tired. Not physically, but emotionally. Tired of trying, tired of explaining, tired of adapting. So sometimes they withdraw completely. They stop sharing. They become quiet. And others interpret the silence as distance or a lack of interest, when in reality it is self-protection. Feeling invisible hurts because humans are wired to be seen. Being seen is not about attention or validation. It's about recognition, about knowing that your inner world exists in the minds of others. When that recognition is missing, loneliness appears, even in crowded rooms. So how does this change? The first step is internal, not external. It begins with releasing the belief that you must earn the right to speak. You don't need to justify your presence. You don't need to explain everything. You don't need to convince people that you are worth listening to. That belief was learned not true. Before speaking, instead of preparing everything you want to say, try anchoring yourself in one simple intention. One sentence, one point. People follow clarity. When you know where you're going, they go with you. When you don't, they drift. Slowing down is also essential. Not as a technique, but as a signal to your nervous system. When you slow your speech, you tell your body that you are safe, that you don't need to rush before someone takes the space away from you. Pauses are not emptiness. They are power. Silence gives weight to words. Learning to tolerate silence is especially important for people who grew up being ignored. Silence can feel dangerous, like abandonment. But in adult communication, silence invites attention. It allows others to process. It allows you to breathe. Another key shift is separating your worth from others' reactions. Not everyone who doesn't listen is rejecting you. Some people are distracted. Some are emotionally unavailable. Some are simply not capable of deep presence. Invisible people often take responsibility for things that are not theirs. It's also important to practice being concise without self-erasure. This doesn't mean becoming small. It means trusting that your message doesn't need excessive protection. Say the core. Stop. Let it land. And finally, perhaps the most difficult, but most transformative step. Allowing yourself to take up space emotionally, to speak without apology, to finish your sentences, to hold eye contact, to exist fully in the moment without shrinking. When you stop speaking from fear and start speaking from grounded presence, something shifts. Not overnight, not magically, but gradually. People respond differently, and more importantly, you feel different. You stop chasing visibility. You embody it. You were never invisible because you lacked value. You learned invisibility as a response to not being seen early on. And anything learned can be unlearned. Being seen starts with allowing yourself to be there, fully, calmly, unapologetically, even if others don't always meet you where you stand. And that is where real presence begins.